Okay.
Sometimes it comes with muted and sometimes it doesn't.
It looked muted to me.
It is now,
Oh, I see. You want it to be.
yeah,
Okay.
it's not.
Well, you know every trick. You're the best.
You have what, we gotta write them all then?
Yeah, she's got it.
Are we good?
What-
Yes.
So it tells you where that muted, but I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, here we go. Call the city council public hearing to order for June 5th, 2024 at 6:45 PM. Roll call, please.
Mayor Allison,
Here?
Tom Baylor is absent. No, Tom Baylor
Tom Baylor
is here. Here. Kathy Sherman, absent right now. Casey Kinsman, absent. Wendy Rainey,
Here.
Dave Zastro,
Here.
Kristen Carpenter, here, and Ken Jones.
Here.
That's a quorum of council.
Here, resolution to, public hearing tonight is on resolution 06-2424, resolution of the council of the city of Cordova, Alaska, setting the property tax mill rate for the 2024 tax year at whatever mills you guys decide for all properties in the city of Cordova. We have a couple of staff and a couple of city members here today. Anybody have anything to say about our mill rate? Raise them up, write in what we need. Seeing nobody coming up to make any comments, we will recess for about 10 minutes and then we'll come back in and finish it up. Okay? So we will stand at recess.
Can you pause that too? That works. Just our faces are up.
Okay, we're back, we'll come back in from recess here. We are currently in our public hearing on resolution 0624-24 regarding the mill rate or setting of the mill rate for property taxes. Anybody have any comments on that topic? Hearing none, then I think we'll adjourn the public hearing and start the council meeting here at 7 o'clock. Public hearing adjourned.
Sorry. Just right. Yes.
Oops.
Yes, okay, Kathy's on.
Good go, huh? All right, call the city council regular meeting of June 5th, 2024. Order at 7 p.m. Please stand and join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Susan.
Mayor Allison,
Here?
Tom Baylor,
Here.
Kathy Sherman. Oh. Kathy, can you hear us? Okay. Absent for now, or what looks like she's trying. Okay, Casey Kinsman is absent. Wendy Rainey,
Here.
Dave Zastro,
Here.
Kristen Carpenter. Here. And Ken Jones.
Here.
That's a quorum of council.
Okay, any objection to the agenda as presented? Move to approve, that's good. Hearing no objection, the agenda will be approved. Disclosures of conflicts of interest or ex parte communications? Hearing none, we'll go to communications by and petitions for visitors. We don't have any guest speakers. So audience comments regarding any agenda items. Come on up, state your name and address. And get 3 minutes for your comment.
Thank you. My name's Mark Carell. I'm the Groundfish Division Co-Chair at CDFU on the board. And I'm here on behalf of CDFU to speak in support of the City Council resolution in favor of Amendment 1, 2, 3 to the Groundfish Management Plan. And our Executive Director, Jess, wrote a letter specifying our reasoning. We really believe this is in the best interest of the economy of the city of Cordova to support this. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I wasn't intending to sit through the meeting, but we support this as an organization. It's really important.
Okay, thank you. What is that an item on our agenda, Susan?
Number 15, Resolution 6/24/26. And the letter he spoke of came too late for the packet, but there's
There.
copies and there are copies over here as well.
Thank you. Any other comments on the agenda items?
208 Boardwalk. About the mill rate, you guys got to quit raising our taxes. I mean, we got property tax last year, assessment, sales tax, and all the meetings, everyone said, we're not going to touch anything else. And then now, next year, we're going after the mill rate again. You're going to run all those businesses out of town. I mean, I'm already competing with the city for storage, which is in the charter that you're not supposed to. I mean, when is it going to stop? That's all I got.
Thank you. Yeah, come up. Name, address, and comments.
Artie Hanson, 310 Railroad. I just kind of want to reiterate on that mill rate. We need to keep it as close to what we're individually paying now, because it's between all the other taxes and stuff with the sales tax increase and everything else, it's getting extremely noticeable for all the families. And I know it's harder right now because everything's more expensive. I mean, you can't hardly, it's just floors you when you go to buy any parts or anything. And I know the city has to go through the same thing. They're buying more parts in every household, but as households, we're cutting back. You're just running it like a business, a household is. So you start cutting back on your stuff, everybody needs to. So we really need to look at it about, let's see what we can do to cut back, whether it's getting a few less rigs on city vehicles on the road. It's been getting, you can't drive through Main Street without seeing a city vehicle drive through town. Granted, I know they're doing business, they're doing their thing, but it's almost obscene to a lot of times to see how much gas got burned. I'm sure we burned more gas than we did diesel this winter moving snow. That shouldn't happen in the winter. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Artie.
Thanks, Artie.
Any other comments on agenda items?
Good evening, Alex Russin, 209 South Second Street. I'm speaking as the superintendent of schools here in Cordova in support of your resolution 06-24-25 with our request for the city's contribution for our FY 25 budget. So again, in support of that, our request comes at based on our needs. You've heard me say that over the years, time and time again. I know that there may be some questions around the legislative appropriation into the capital budget, which is still subject to the governor's review and hopefully approval. That anticipated revenue, should we get that from the state, will help eat into our $1.5 million deficit. So that won't be, those monies will be used to potentially add back in positions and expenditures that we cut to balance the budget initially. That we won't be swimming in any revenue should we get any additional from the state. Likewise, you probably are all familiar with the native village of EAC's contribution to the school district for our food service and extracurricular program. Those funds will help keep those two programs intact for our school year next year for the 24-25 school year. Absent that contribution by NVE, we were in a position to have to make some major cuts to both of those programs for next school year. So your contribution will help support the budget that is needed and will again kind of restore some of the positions and programmatic things that we had to potentially reduce with the budget shortfalls. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Alex. Any other comments on agenda items?
Sarah Tremblay, 130 Heaney Creek Lane. I have a new address, so I don't get to say that very often. I am probably in the minority. I think that you guys should look at maybe upping the mill rate to create some much needed revenue for the city. So that's all I have to say. I know that I am not in the majority, so.
Thank
that
you,
is all
Sarah.
that I've got to say right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on agenda items? Going once, twice. Okay, moving right along then. Chairpersons, representatives, boards and commissions, we have a written report from the Prince William Sound RCAC is Dave's not here, yeah. So anybody from the hospital board around? About the school board, Alex, did you have any general school board information? Okay, any other boards missing on there? Okay, we don't have student council. Students are on summer break. So the consent calendar is before you.
I'll take the roll on the consent calendar if nothing is being pulled. On the consent calendar. Kristen Carpenter,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman, did we lose her? Okay. She's absent. Oh. Kathy, can you hear us? Must be having tough internet. I'm not sure.
Maybe she can vote in the chat bar.
Well. Tom Baylor,
Yes.
Wendy Rainey,
Yes.
Dave Zastro,
Yes.
Casey Kinsman is absent, Ken Jones.
Yes.
The consent calendar is approved.
Hey, thank you. The minutes are in the consent calendar. Correspondence.
Every time
Oh.
she unmutes, she loses her connection. It's on your side.
Maybe she can give us a thumbs up or. So don't have any bids or proposals, so reports of officers, mayor's report. We're in the hard baseball season, so I will not be attending Nouveau this weekend, but there are several various organizations coming in. There's one or two of those that want to have coffee or something, so I usually entertain whoever would like to meet when they come to town. So there'll be a lot of visitors in town this week, but fortunately I have Reggiani's an arm twister and he twisted my arm to coach the team this year, so we'll be coaching baseball Saturday. Anyway, I don't have anything interesting to report other than that I will have a couple meetings and I will report next meeting who I met with and what we had to discuss. One of them is the Alyeska government affairs person. She comes down all the time, Kate. She always meets every time she comes down, so she's the only one I know of for sure. So anyway, city managers report. Sam.
Okay, I got a little update on EAC Weir, so Copper River Watershed, DOT, DNR. Us met again to kind of discuss ownership. Yeah, the state is not gonna take ownership at this point. DOT is like negative. So, but they are willing to work with us on an MOU for maintenance and monitoring, some type of agreement that way. And to feel like that's a win, at least we could get that support. So Joe Kemp is talking to legal because they built it, so they do own it, so they have to get it to us. And then we will have to go through the DNR process to have a permit to do that. So we're starting that process now, even without any paperwork in place. As far as ownership goes, because it's a 6 to 8 month process. Two comment periods of 60 days or one's 30, one's 60. So we're working on that. Kate is working on all of that, getting that going. We're waiting to hear back from Joe Kemp and we will confirm the MOU before we sign any paperwork on the maintenance side of the deal with DOT. So that's there. The finance group, Tammy, Barb, Tammy, Cheryl, and Sandy are in Utah getting training on Cassell. Very intense, very specific to what exactly they do, training, and Cheryl is getting it all. And Chris, our person from finance director from Whittier, who's helping us out, is there as well. And so there's a lot of meetings after work, after classes, just getting things all lined out. So it's been really helpful, especially for Cheryl. She's really connecting up with Chris. So that is really going to be a positive thing. Other than that, I don't really have any other things to talk about, but Colin's got his council meeting update.
Before you move on, for the DNR permit, will the city incur costs and will the Kate be able to reimburse that?
If we do, I'm sure she will, but I don't believe we will incur any costs. I think the state wants to help that move along as efficiently as.
Okay, so just staff time.
Yep. Well, Kate's doing the work.
Okay. very
I'm
good.
just participating in the calls and making sure, we're getting, and I'll probably put some time into that DOT MOU just to make sure. But yeah,
And yeah, another question on that, the MOU, who all would be part of that MOU specifically, do we know?
I don't know at this point, but DOT for sure, and the city and Copper River Watershed. I know that the Forest Service has some monitoring money. Is more about the fish habitat. From DOT, I'm looking for the structural
Right,
stuff.
right.
So I think, I'm not sure, but there could be access, agreement from landowners around, although we will at the end of construction have an easement, the city. So the access is guaranteed through there.
Monitoring and maintenance.
Any other questions on that online? Can't see if,
Yeah, I think Kathy's.
okay,
All right, good evening, everyone. The South Harbor project summary. Right now, we are at about 85, give or take 5% completion on the wall, railings going up. We just have the corners of the east and west end to backfill, and then the area, the small area on the approach to the drive down to complete. Parking 90% complete. We're waiting for final grade and the parking blocks to be installed. Floats J and K are open with water service. iFloat is open with no services. G and H are under construction. Drive down ramp has been installed. Drive down float is installed. Water sewer work in progress. Electrical service work in progress. Telecom services scheduled over the next several months. That's going to be handled and paid for by CTC. And current anticipation completion of the floats will be the 15th of June. We were supposed to have the barge pulled out today, but I think with the wind, they weren't able to get it out safely and they have to get an optimal tide. So either they do it in the middle of the night tonight or tomorrow afternoon. Environmental impacts, no issues, mostly because we haven't been driving pile for the last month or so, 3 weeks. But we will start driving the last 50 pile in the next, I would suspect, day or two. And our permits required for that have been extended. So no issues there. Funding, raise grant, fully executed, 31,521,973.75 spent to date, 9.55 million reimbursed to date, $5 million pending reimbursement, 8.476 million remaining in the contract due to the contractor. So we're real close to wrapping that up. 1.1 million remaining in the tier grant. We have a request in for $300,000 on that. And they're usually about 2 weeks to process. $25,000 sewer pump out loan is pending. Just got some feedback from them this afternoon. So that should be coming. We received an additional $1 million in congressionally directed spending, or funding rather. And road closure on Nikoloff continues. We just dug into the street for water sewer, and that should be open for about 6-7 days. And then our schedule for final acceptance, the week of 24 June. That is everybody, our consultants, and all the subs, the four subs and Turnigan will be here for final acceptance. So we sign off on everything and create a punch list as needed. In the next 10 days, I think everyone's going to be here, Transpac, and all of our subs will be on site just to get the final pieces in place so we can take acceptance of the project. And that's all I have.
any questions for Colin?
Okay.
Looking good. Thank you, Colin.
Have a good night.
That's it, Sam.
That's it. Thank you.
City clerk's report.
Well, I think you guys see that Jess is on the line, so she'll help us out with ordinance 1217, which is coming next. And I've also handed out some suggested amendments that we've already come up with, just because there was a lot of meat to that, and we came up with a few more today that didn't quite make the first draft. And there are copies of that on the side for the people as well. So that is all I will report right now.
Questions for the clerk? Okay, then we'll move right along to, we don't have any other correspondence other than what was
Oh, no, there was none this time.
a separate packet, or the, not the packet, but the
One
letter you talked about
correct,
from
yeah.
CDFU. Okay, so that takes us up to ordinances and resolutions. First ordinance is 1217. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, repealing chapter 5.36 property tax and replacing same with a new chapter 5.05 property tax. Chapter 5.06 property tax exemptions and deferrals, and chapter 5.07 property tax exemptions and deferral criteria. This is first reading. There will be 2 readings and a public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 1217. Do I need to read all that other stuff?
No.
No.
Okay.
Looking for a second?
Second.
Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, I mainly made the motion just so we could get it on the floor to discuss. I do support the effort of property tax exemptions for economic development, and this is one of the necessary steps, I believe, in order for us to enact those. So, yeah, I'll be supporting it.
Councilmember Baylor,
No, no comment right now.
do we need? to
Jess
hear
has a
from
presentation, yeah.
Okay,
She has a few
okay,
slides.
let's go ahead and hear the presentation from Jessica.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Jeff.
Wait, Jess, we don't hear you. Do you hear us?
Oh, yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There you are.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Sorry. Okay, I have a brief slide pack to go through. This kind of picks up from last fall when we were working on the tax ordinance more broadly. We had kind of a broader take at the beginning. So I'm going to walk through where we were last fall, what this ordinance brings forward now, and then next steps after that. So let me share my screen so you guys can see what I am referencing. And okay, can you guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. So as I just mentioned, last fall, we set to work to do a more wholesale rewrite of Title V. It was going to address property tax, sales tax, and then it was also going to take several provisions of Title V that more accurately capture concerns around city property and create a new Title VII that would hold those provisions. We spent some time in the fall. I spoke with you all about property tax in particular, and Holly talked to you on some sales tax work sessions. And then as we moved into the new year, we determined that we were going to go ahead and move the property tax amendments forward first, separate from the sales tax and Title VII. So these are coming to you in Ordinance 1217. Do note that the entire ordinance has an effective date of January 1st, 2025. So these will be in place next year when administration starts dealing with assessments and as we'll get to exemption applications as well. So I've kind of bifurcated the scope of the revisions into two separate pieces. One is just administrative changes. Some of them are somewhat significant in the sense that Chapter 5.06 now provides a more clear pathway for people applying for exemptions under the code to make those applications when they're due, who reviews them, how they're reviewed, how the recommendation is made to council. And then as well, the appeal provision, which Susan has for you as an amendment, because we did some more work this morning as I was pulling together the PowerPoint, frankly, and decided that we should be addressing it slightly differently than we had considered previously. So I can get to that when we discuss the amendment as well and kind of explain what those amendments will do and why we think they're helpful. So there's that process put in place, and then there's just general housekeeping edits that have been incorporated to kind of make sure that the code is hewing to administration's practices and is aligned with current law across the board. So there was kind of that level of review done as well. One thing, we typically provide you a red line of the ordinance versus current code. That's really challenging here where we're repealing a chapter. We're implementing 3 new chapters, and we've kind of taken the previous chapter and pulled it apart into those 3. So to the extent we can provide you something visual for next meeting or the public hearing, if anybody needs that. I did, in reviewing today and kind of preparing for the meeting, I realized that may be kind of it would have been a helpful thing to have, and I'm not sure how well we can do it, but we may want to think about whether there's something that we can provide you that would provide a little bit more of a red line than we have tonight, because you guys just have the clean ordinance as it would be adopted in front of you, the new chapters. The other half, and probably the thing we've focused on more in our previous work sessions, is these exemptions. We went through previously, we talked in the fall about how property tax exemptions are statutory. They're under Title 29, and they fall into 2 categories of either mandatory or optional. So currently, Cordova's code doesn't have I'm getting ahead of myself. So up first on the front end, as far as application and appeal processes, Chapter 506 is going to put those in place. As I just mentioned, it's going to provide a pathway for people to apply so they understand when and how that process moves forward. And then secondly, what we did focus on mainly last fall and what kind of overtook the conversation almost was this economic development exemption and the changes the state legislature has made related to economic development. And I'm going to walk through that in particular. There are other exemptions that have been added in Ordinance 1217, primarily speaking to the nonprofit exemption, which is both required by statute and constitution. It's a constitutional exemption as well in Alaska. And it exists regardless of whether it's in your code, but it's really helpful to have it in code as your administration deals with those applications. And it provides clarity and transparency to nonprofit entities that are also applying for the exemption. So the addition of the nonprofit exemption is also going to be helpful moving forward. But I wanted to speak a little bit more to economic development exemptions and just remind everybody of where we had left things last fall and kind of what the opportunity is based on the changes to the legislation at the state level. These are the provisions on the slide that were previously in place, and they really kind of hamstrung people's ability to receive economic development exemptions. It's hard to check all these boxes, particularly in small communities in Alaska, I would say. The property could not have been previously taxed. It has to be used in a trade or business that is not already in existence within the city. And it has to show that it's creating employment and generating sales outside of the city of goods or services produced in the city, or materially reduce the importation of goods or services from outside the city. So those are all not particularly provisions that are helpful to local communities trying to grant an economic development exemption. The legislature did change in 2022 the definition of economic development. It's much broader now, and it just means an action intended to result in an outcome that causes an increase in or avoids a decrease of economic activity, gross domestic product, or the tax base. So this provides significantly more leeway for communities to develop economic development exemptions and economic development programs. Really, it can dovetail into a lot of the discussions you were having last fall as you thought about housing, and I think a downtown district was brought up, and other notions of how this could be used. It does still have to have parameters, and those parameters have to be approved by ordinance. So if following public hearing, council adopts Ordinance 1217 as is, what it's done with the economic development exemption is it's provided the new standard by which economic development exemptions can be granted, but then it's required the city to approve by ordinance an application form with criteria. And there were two reasons for doing this. One, when we were working on it in the fall and we saw that it was going to be a big effort and that there was a lot of energy around developing this exemption, we kind of tabled it in a way by passing the ordinance that puts in place this ordinance. The previous ordinance has the same language that 1217 has. So we developed the approach of establishing the new standard that's present in Title 29 in the ordinance, so it's available to council, and then allowing you to move forward with further work sessions and really nailing down what those exemptions are going to look like, and then providing them in an application form. And some of this goes back to timeline as far as when this ordinance is going to be in effect, the effective date being January 1st. You now, if you do pass the ordinance this summer that adopts this standard, then you have the rest of the year to hold work sessions, do whatever work is necessary to develop this form and whatever criteria you want to impose now. And in speaking with administration, I think we also, it gives it a little bit of a flavor of council being able to over time redirect where it wants to place economic development exemptions as your priorities change and as behaviors you want to incentivize or de-incentivize change over time. You'll be able to come back by ordinance and revise your form and kind of create a new economic development program. So that's the current form of the ordinance. It does not hold those criteria. It doesn't have specific criteria in this ordinance. It points to an application form that will hold that criteria. So that work will still need to be done by council if this ordinance is adopted this summer. And then we also still have the outstanding, we have the sales tax revisions done after last fall. Council probably hasn't thought about them in a while. I think you guys got through some budgetary things this winter, and So, but we do have a draft of the sales tax ordinance as well. And that ordinance can also establish Title VII to remove those property provisions that we felt better fell in a separate title and not in revenue and finance. So those are kind of the leftover tasks if you all do decide to move forward with ordinance 1217 this summer. So that's a high level overview of the ordinance. And then I was just going to take questions if anyone has them. And then Susan, I also don't know how much you wanted to speak. You or Sam wanted to speak to anything on administration side as well.
I'm okay. You did it. You said it all, Jess.
If you have any questions for Jessica? Okay, then we'll continue around the table.
Yeah.
Oh, Kristen, go ahead, Kristen.
No, I was just gonna ask, Jess, you talked about how if we do adopt this, then we've got to go come up with the application process. And I just wondered if you had examples from other communities who are doing this kind of thing. I mean, I feel like we don't have to invent everything from scratch. Somebody has already tackled some of this, so.
It's been interesting to watch. In October, there was not a lot out there. It didn't feel like municipalities had really taken action yet. And Holly and I were discussing putting out, when this got picked up again to move forward on the property tax front. I do think it's worth reaching out through the AMA, network to see if other people are doing things with it. But as of last time, we kept kind of looking around to see how people were framing and how broad they were getting. And it seems like people are maybe a little slow on the uptake about the change. And I know in one community, they weren't aware the change had happened. We reached out to a colleague and they weren't aware the legislation had passed. So I think these things take a minute to kind of settle in. But we will look again now that we're picking it up. We'll see if anybody's done anything in the meantime, since it's been a few months.
Great, thanks.
Ms. Mulroney.
I'd like to put in the 3 amendments that were suggested before we vote on that. There was an addition of 5.06090 appeals. There was also verbiage for section 5.06.020 to say applications for exemptions and deferrals must be submitted by January 15th of the year in which they are sought, unless a different application deadline is specified in chapter 5.07 of this code. And then the third one, the temporary landscape exemption, a number in there it's provided in section 5.06.090, not listed. So with those 3 exemptions added, I'd like to.
You
then
move to
vote.
make those
Move to make
amendments.
those amendments.
Okay, it's been moved by Rennie too,
That-
and seconded by Baylor. Okay, anything else to add to that, Councilmember? Any?
No.
Councilmember Baylor,
Yeah, I support that.
everybody ready to vote on that amendment? Yeah.
Yeah,
Jones?
I guess the only thing I've got a question for staff. So, mainly for the clerk, why January 15th? Do you know why that was put in there?
I think Jess added in, is January 15th statutory?
No, January 15th is not statutory. We, and looking, I forgot to come back to this. I apologize. I can explain both the amendments. The one is just, as the council member mentioned, is just to make sure that we remove the errant reference to the wrong section of code. The other 2, one creates a separate appeal process related specifically to exemptions and deferrals. And then the alignment of all exemption applications to January 15th was an attempt to pull everybody into the same process so that when the city is dealing with those appeals, they can handle them in an orderly fashion and make sure that they're all dealt with at the same time. The senior exemption is due on January 15th per state statute. That's something that's outside of the city's control. And then I believe it's the temporary landscape exemption is for some reason scheduled for March 1st. So that's why the caveat is there. Everything's due on January 15th unless referenced otherwise in 5.07. And that holds out the statutory exemptions that for some reason are set later in the year. I think it may be because the landscape exemption is backward looking. So I think it's treated differently under statute. So the goal was to pull everything together. And then also if you're having your BOE hearings on your assessment appeals at a certain time in the spring. It's just helpful to have all of this helping generally in the same time frame. I don't know that everything administratively will get collapsed into the same meeting, but in working with administration, it was an attempt to streamline the whole process so that everything goes through together and is dealt with efficiently.
Answer your question?
Yeah,
Any other questions on the amendments?
Kathy Sherman just said that she was in favor.
She was what?
Oh, in case she loses the connection, she voted yes on the amendment.
Okay. Okay, any, ready to vote on the amendment? Let's, all those in favor of the amendments as presented, say aye.
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 Oh, we heard you, Kathy.
Opposed? We are now looking at it with these amendments. Comments, Councilmember Zastro,
No comments.
Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Rainey,
No comment.
Councilmember Baylor,
No, I'll go
Coun-
through it again for the second reading.
Councilmember Sherman.
No comments at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Carpenter.
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, let's vote. This is first reading, so let's just voice vote. All those in favor of the ordinance as presented and amended, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. We will do a public hearing and a second reading next meeting.
Correct.
Okay, resolution 06-2424, a resolution of the council of the city of Cordova, Alaska, setting the property tax mill rate for the 2024 year at, and please, when you make the motion, put in your number of mills for all properties in the city of Cordova.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution 6-24-24. A resolution of the council of the city of Cordova, Alaska, setting the property tax mill levy for the 2024 tax year at 9.93 mils for all properties in the city of Cordova.
I'll second it.
And moved and seconded, Councilmember Jones?
Yeah, this puts us at the 3 million that we budgeted. That was kind of in my eyes, that was the deal we made with the citizens back in December, that, we're setting it at this level and the mill rate's gonna adjust depending on how the assessments adjust. So, we've done this in the past too, where we just set the revenue goal and then we make the mill rate match that revenue goal. So that's why I'm in support of that option. It is also the least burdensome on the taxpayers. It still results in a slight increase, unfortunately, but about $189 on an average home of 350,000.
Okay, Councilmember Rainey?
Yeah, I have nothing to add to that.
Councilmember Baylor?
Yeah, I can go along with that.
Councilmember Sherman?
I can go along with that. I would feel more comfortable with a small increase. Because we all know everything's gonna continue to cost up, but I can go along with this for now.
Councilmember Carpenter?
Yeah, I echo Councilmember Sherman. Thanks.
Councilmember Zastro?
Yep, I'm good with this.
Okay, I don't see anybody. Now, this is a final
Just one time.
final vote, so we'll do the roll call.
I will do a roll call with 9.93 inserted into resolution 6-2424. Dave Zastro,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
Ken Jones,
Yes.
Tom Baylor,
Yes.
Stacy Kinsman is absent, Wendy Rainey,
Yes.
Kristen Carpenter.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we have our mill rate, resolution 06-2425. A resolution of the city council of the city of Cordova, Alaska, acknowledging the proposed budget of the Cordova Public School District for fiscal year ending June 30, 2025, and determining the amount of local sources available for school purposes, subject to modification before the city council final approval of the city's FY 25 budget in December 2024. Ready?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Sherman.
I move to adopt as read.
For a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Councilmember Sherman, and just for everybody's note, Superintendent Russin is here to answer any questions if we have any. So Councilmember Sherman.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Allison. So I think this resolution clearly states our support for the Cordova School District. And we know that our fiscal year and their fiscal years are very different. We also know that the governor has yet to even touch the budget. I believe it has not approached his desk yet, but so a lot of things could change, and we have the liberty. We have already funded the school to the full amount for our fiscal year, and so we will have time to revisit to help and assist if need be. But there's a lot of things out there flapping in the wind, so this is a good resolution that shows our support as a community for the Cordova School District.
Okay, Councilmember Baylor.
Yeah, I've got maybe a couple questions for the school superintendent, if you wouldn't mind. Thanks for being here. There's a couple other funding sources. I'm not sure how they work into your budget, but the NVE, and I believe there's $200,000 for that for the National Guard school use. And those are 500,000 for some food service and some other things. How does that wrap into your budget? Where's that money going to?
So those items address our $1.5 million deficit. So planning our initial budget for FY 25, being fully staffed and fully with all of our programs intact, the cost of doing business for us for the FY 25 school year had us at a $1.5 million deficit. So during the budget development process, we were faced in creating a balanced budget, right? So that meant cutting out $1.5 million of staffing, of programs, of resources to balance that budget, right? Based on what our anticipated revenue was from the state and the contribution amount, which is identified in the resolution, right? So we had that $1.5 million deficit. So we said, well, in order to do that, we may have to cut our food service program entirely. We may have to cut all of our student activities entirely. We will not fill 4 teaching positions that we would not fill due to attrition. We had a few people retiring and then a couple of positions that we just wouldn't be able to fill based on that deficit, along with some other instructional resources and so forth that teachers had prioritized, right? So all of that amounted to about $1.5 million deficit. NVE stepped in and said that they would cover the cost of our food service and our extracurricular activities for next school year. So that amounted to $700,000. So if you follow me with my mental math at least, so that 1.5 million minus 700,000 gave us about an $800,000 deficit, right? So we still had to cut from our balanced budget $800,000. We were able to negotiate with NVE, the use of the high school facility to house the National Guard while they're here this summer working on the Shepherd Point project. So we were able to negotiate a $200,000 contract with them to use the school facility, kitchen, and the whole school and so forth. So again, following my mental math, 800,000 minus 200,000 put us at a $600,000 deficit. So we still have to cut or reduce from our fully funded, fully staffed budget, $600,000. If the governor does not line item veto the amount of the one-time funding that was put into the budget, capital budget for schools, that will net us about almost $600,000, which will kind of get us at a point where we could be fully funded, not fully funded, we could be fully staffed with all of the needs being met for next school year. Should that not happen from the governor's desk, we still would be looking at cutting $600,000 from our budget for next year.
It's kind of a dire look if the NVE didn't come up with that $700,000.
I think we will be having a very similar conversation next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I'll use your words, a dire situation, but we so appreciate NVE being willing to come together as a community to help support those two programs in particular.
Yeah. Which in my mind, in a year or two, it's gonna fall right back to the property taxes to make that up if we want to fund our school. That's my concern, where we're headed. But for now, we're looking all right.
Yeah, part of what we're doing as well, or we're as a school district, we don't have a grant writer per se. That's part of my role and kind of putting some of that work on our principals and some of our district leadership to go out and actively search for grants that may offset the cost of running some of those programs. So we've got a few strategies in mind as we kick off sort of the start of next school year at aggressively going after some additional grants that we don't or haven't necessarily been awarded in the past. And so it's not as if we're looking, sitting back, waiting for people. A term that was used that bothered me recently that I heard in town was bailing us out. And to me, that sort of indicates mismanagement of district funds or sort of a reluctance to budget accordingly. But in my 9 years that I've been here, and each time that I've come to the city council, it's been based on what the needs and no more or no less for what the district and students need.
Okay. Well, thank you. That answers my questions.
The whole battle is starting over next year because even the BSA increase is a one-time deal. So that whole conversation gets started right away again with the legislature. So, it's not, next year doesn't look any better.
No.
Any better than right now. Actually, right now it looks pretty good. In my eyes, it looks like you may end up with exactly what you wanted at the beginning without having to make any cuts if, knock on wood, the governor's red pen gets lost. So anyway, any other questions for Alex or discussion on the resolution? Carpenter, Councilmember Carpenter or Sherman?
No, thanks.
Oh, sorry, Kristen.
Yeah, no, it sounded like you both said the same thing. Nope. Anybody at the table? You ready to vote on this? Okay, this is the resolution. We get a roll call, please.
Sure. On resolution 6/24/25, Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
Ken Jones,
Yes.
Casey Kinsman is absent. Kristen Carpenter,
Yes.
Tom Baylor,
Yes.
Wendy Rainey,
Yes.
Dave Zastro.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you. good luck to the schools. I just, on behalf of the city, once again, I would also express appreciation to NV for supporting that, food service and activities, both important programs for our community, and I'm glad they stepped up and helped out with that, because Councilmember Baylor is right. You know, ultimately, there's not a lot of other places to get the money, so appreciate that anyway. Bottom line, appreciate that. And on behalf of the school, I'd just like to say that since Alex has been superintendent there, every year the end result is always much better than expected, and I think that has to do with a couple of things: not spending or not saving where you can, and not, you know, and saving on expenses. You know, you always do better than your budget. So appreciate that. Hasn't always been the case over the years here, but ever since Alex has been doing that, I think the school has done a pretty good job managing the money that they do get. So anyway, thank you. Resolution, where we at 06-24-26.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we city council approve resolution 06-24-26 as written in the packet.
Second.
Councilmember Baylor.
Now I support it. Sounds like it's important for us to do this.
Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, I'll support this.
Councilmember Zastro.
Yeah, I think it's important to support it.
Councilmember Rainey.
Yep, absolutely support it.
Councilmember Sherman.
Yes, in full support.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Yeah, I support it. I'll just add, I did get some figures from Mark, and maybe he would have added this to the discussion, but halibut bycatch in the Bering Sea has at times been greater than the commercial halibut catch in the Bering Sea. And for 2023, the bycatch, the total Bering Sea bycatch was 2.66 million pounds. That's bycatch. The commercial catch was 2.06 million pounds. So the bycatch was greater than the commercial catch. And I think that's what makes this issue so compelling. Thank you.
Yep, pretty incredible. Okay.
That's just the reported bycatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody's supporting this. Let's go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor of resolution 06-24-26, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have no unfinished business. New and miscellaneous business is the pending agenda. And all the other lists we have.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
so I'm not fully understanding the city storage issue that was brought up, whether we're charging less. Or could we, at some point, staff look into that, maybe give us a report back, and if we're,
I wrote it down.
okay, if we're undercutting, then we need to correct it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anybody have anything we wanna, do we need to talk about second June meeting?
Yes. It falls on a holiday. So it says we'll have it on the next day. A quorum can be available. Occasionally you cancel second meetings of the month in the summer months anyway. So Sam, do you know if we have anything pressing? I mean, we have public hearing and second reading of this ordinance, which can wait. But
No.
Kevin has a planning commission meeting, but anything that comes from it, I think can wait till the 1st of July. I think it will be July 3rd, the next regular meeting. And if anything arises, we'll scramble and call you for a special,
Does that work?
unless anybody
Do
feels.
you have anything we need to discuss?
Oh, sounds good.
And then I'll get with Jess about maybe starting those work sessions at that July 3rd meeting, maybe, scheduling an hour before it to do the first work session to come up with, oh, well, I guess should we wait for the ordinance to be done? I don't know. Sounded like it had a lot of support today. I don't foresee you guys changing it. All right, we'll see what works for her. If
Okay.
July 3rd, Ken, are you around? No, you might not be around July 3rd, huh? You probably will want to be involved
I'll
in,
be able to call in.
okay. All right, we'll see what she says.
Okay. If you have anything you wanna add to an agenda, just let me know and we'll try to get it on there. So, anything else at this meeting you talk about?
Nope.
On it? Okay, we don't have an executive session, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let's go for council comments.
Audience, if
Oh, audience comments, maybe audience comments. Anybody have any comments on anything you want to talk about? Doesn't have to necessarily be on our agenda. Okay, we'll go to council comments and online, council member Sherman.
I'm so happy I could stay connected. I just really wanted to thank Jess and for all that work. I know there was a team behind that, but this is a long time coming and we're finally making headway, so that's really exciting. And I wanted to thank Superintendent Russin for being there tonight. Just having him clarify questions was really valuable, so that was great. And it was nice to have some audience comments in the very beginning, so thanks for all that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Carpenter.
Yeah, I will echo what Councilmember Sherman said and thank the city manager for the work on the moving the EAC Lake Weir project forward. I appreciate that.
Okay, Councilmember Rainey.
Echo the same going on. I like to see that we didn't have to jump the mill rate up a ton. That's helpful, I think. And I appreciate the bycatch resolution coming forward. We've been pretty vocal about fighting that, and it's nice to see the city's taking a stand with it as well.
Councilmember Baylor.
I agree with everything that's been said, not more.
Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, I guess I just want to maybe clarify something I said earlier. I alluded to the fact that the mill rate was a slight increase, but we're actually dropping the mill rate about 1/10 of a mill. The increase I alluded to was just the effective tax rate for people's homes because of the increase in the assessment that was across the board implemented this spring. So I just wanted to clarify that. We did lower the mill rate 0.9 mils. So, and we are, looks like, almost 1.2 mils, 1.25 mils lower than the average from 1975 to 2023. So, and 2.5 mils lower than the average from 1992 to 2023. So I just want to put that on the record for folks that are listening.
Thank you. Councilmember Zastro.
No, just echoing what other council members have said. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Then, there being no further business, we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Well, that's kind of why I jumped in and made the motion because I wanted to make sure it was the lowest option.
You could have made it. You could have made it. You wanted.
Sure.
Yeah. Feels like an increase because assessments went up. It is 6%.
I know.
No, I threw that out there
They
because
are doing pretty good.
I didn't
From
want
the next,
anybody else to make a
right,
motion.
next year, it all starts over again.
5 or something.
Because
Then
they
have
won't
to
let
argue
that
it down.
matter.
It's easier if you just jump out in front and make the motion and then